Welcome to another edition of Fantasy News. I am your host, Daniel Greene, and today we have a good amount of hardcore fantasy sci-fi. I'm going to add some sci-fi in there as well, news to get to. I'm going to start with that, transition to the general adaptation and superhero news, make it the quickie news towards the middle, and at the very end have what I think to be is one of the most interesting pieces of nerd tech news I've covered here on Fantasy News. But jumping right into it, right now, let's talk Witcher because we got a lot of Witcher news. Right out the gate, we got some Witcher promo posters. I'm not personally in love with these. They're a little too stylized for my taste and the faces look odd in a couple of them, but hey, that's whatever, and they're just posters. You can't really judge something off of a poster. But what we did get that I found way more interesting was these character pieces released on the Witcher YouTube channel. Basically, the actors portraying Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer came through and gave little spiels about how the actors interpret the character, the origins of the character, and the journey they go through. All three were well done and interesting and gave a lot of footage for the upcoming show. I personally found Yennefer's to be the most interesting, the actress's take and deep dive to that character, because I feel like Yennefer is a character who doesn't get enough credit among the fandom in certain ways, and the transformation she goes through, though I'm not super in touch with the Witcher fandom, so this is just in the circles I've seen. But if you want to see a lot of Witcher footage and some of the angles and possible storylines from the books they will be going through in Season 1, check these out. Of course, links in the description down below, and if you wouldn't mind leaving a like while you're down there, greatly appreciated. Moving on. We also got what I found to be a mildly misleading article about how, it was originally going to be about Ciri is how the article's framed, but that's not quite accurate to what the showrunner actually said. She just meant having Ciri as the focus and narrator, not the protagonist, which implies it wouldn't be Geralt as the main protagonist. I don't think the showrunner meant that, but moving on past that, if you actually read what the showrunner says in this article, it's really interesting to see how they're going to approach this story and what books they're going to be pulling from the most in Season 1, which is pretty much directly addressed here, and what lines up with what we see in these little character pieces that were just put out. Basically, if you do the math and put all these together, I won't get into it in depth here because I know some people don't want to know this due to spoilery reasons, you can kind of guess what stories that happened before the books, in the books, and maybe original things they're adding on their own this first season of Witcher at Netflix is going to cover. I'm excited. All of this looks pretty good, except for those posters, and I'm down as a Witcher fan. This will probably be the last Witcher dump we get before the TV show comes out. It's right around the corner, and come back here to the channel if you'd like to see a review of episode by episode. Nice little segue into, I want to address a lot of questions I've got recently about, hey Daniel, why haven't you been doing episode by episode reviews for Mandalorian and his Dark Materials? And what I've decided to do is I cannot review that many TV shows on the channel. I do daily videos, and let's say I'm reviewing 3 shows at a time. That is a huge chunk of my week taken up by just TV show reviews. I'm not a TV show reviewer. I'm a book reviewer and a fantasy nerd. So what I'll likely do is first episode reviews and then season reviews once these shows are wrapped up, except for a few choice shows I'm very interested in and will be doing episode by episode. Next up, we got a pretty big tease, and that's all it is, but possibly major reveal from Patrick Rothfuss at a Twitch live stream about the background for a certain character. Mild spoiler warnings, but I'm not actually going to go into what he said, just like, yes, this character's past is vague and we don't know things, and Patrick kind of confirmed and not. Let's talk about it. Involving a character named Elodin. Rothfuss did this big tease or actual review on Twitch in a live stream. And afterward, according to a Reddit post that we can't really verify beyond just this Reddit poster is claiming this, someone went up and asked Rothfuss, is this true? And Rothfuss went, maybe not, which is a very, very Rothfuss thing to do. Pretty much the last big Kingkiller reveal we're probably gonna get this decade. Rothfuss's exact words were, let's say I know a lot about Elodin's backstory. Let's call it a possible speculative backstory for now. So if you wanna see what he said, of course, link right down there, but no, that's his official take on what he said. My personal opinion is what he said is probably accurate. Now let's transition into YouTubers putting out sci-fi books news. I know this is fantasy news, but sci-fi counts sometimes, so let's talk about that. Axiom's End, a book by notable YouTuber Lindsay Ellis, officially has a release date and is available for pre-order. She actually put out an entire video about her publishing process and why she went with traditional publishing and how painful it was and took nearly a decade. It's an interesting video. I recommend you check it out, linked down below. I know I get a lot of questions about the publishing industry here in the channel. I can't speak on it much. I don't know that much, but soon will, hopefully, as I begin the process for my book. But if you'd like to pre-order her book, I'll put that link down there and the video about her journey and getting published, even though she has a platform, being very difficult. And now let's go ahead and transition to the 2 trailers I want to talk about. Even though we got a lot, these are the 2 that stuck out to me. We had a Ghostbusters trailer, and it's got Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd, but I am just not a fan of them ever making more or remaked or anything Ghostbusters. Leave Ghostbusters alone in my mind. I don't know. I'm just not super hyped about this. I love Paul Rudd to death, but even he can't make me want more Ghostbusters. I'm sorry. And then we got a trailer for the new Wonder Woman, and this looked pretty good. Wonder Woman has been the one solid point for DC right now, where pretty much everyone enjoys her story and wants to see more from this hero. So this looks pretty neat. We have a lot going on in this trailer already. Of course, a million YouTubers have put out their deep dives, what you missed, check it out. I'm not going to do a trailer reaction for it, but it does look good. I'm excited for it and probably going to see it in theaters whenever it's released, I think next June or July. And in fantasy merchandise news, surprising nobody, it's official. Baby Yoda is the #1 toy sold on Amazon. It's not even officially out yet, but the pre-orders for this stuff are through the roof, apparently, and you know, duh. This isn't even news. This is just a foregone conclusion as soon as that little baby was on screen. George Miller spoke on an update for his dystopian futuristic franchise Mad Max, saying it is certainly not done. He has more to tell in this world, hopefully, it seems, within the same continuity as the recent Mad Max Fury Road, which apparently is still canon and continuous for the last few Mad Max movies, just further on down the road in this dystopian future. I'm happy to hear this. I loved Mad Max Fury Road and liked 2 of the original Mad Max movies. And let me know down below if you are interested in a different kind of alternative path for Mad Max, because there's been a lot of talk about having a Mad Max movie. Apparently there's going to be one that follows Furiosa. I'm excited for that. I think that's pretty neat. I liked her character and had a lot of questions after Fury Road. Now let's talk about what Tom Holland is getting memed about recently. And the split here seems pretty 50-50. 50% of people saying Tom Holland did an amazing thing by this, and 50% making fun of him. Reportedly, Tom Holland just had an emotional, very emotional phone call with Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, about getting Spider-Man back in the MCU, and is largely credited with actually getting him back, which is awesome in my opinion. People making fun of him to me is ridiculous. If a franchise you were involved with that had changed your life forever and made you a multi-millionaire was suddenly taken away from you, drastically altering your future, you wouldn't be upset? I would be, for sure, and I would be very emotional about it, especially with apparently how little notice he had when the news dropped. Apparently the call did leave Tom Holland in tears, but it was a large part of why Disney pushed so hard to make this deal finally go through. Reportedly, this could also just be one of these Disney stories they put out. I don't know. In a slightly less professional bit of this, apparently Tom Holland was also drunk, but hey, boys will be partying. I think it's ridiculous to make fun of him. I think that's completely justified to be emotionally upset if something this big is taken away from you. Now, in superhero quickie news, we had the first WandaVision look. It looks old-timey, neat. Apparently, we might get a Yondu Disney Plus series, prequel series, maybe. I don't know. He's a fan favorite. It seems likely. And Warner Bros. Officially announced Shazam 2, which makes sense. It's one of their best reviewed superhero movies yet with this whole DCEU. There is available to try and use an AI Dungeon Master for tabletop RPG games out there right now. I just tried to use it. It's down due to high downloads and things like that. Very predictable after the story dropped, but reportedly it's pretty good. It's not awful. So I'm just excited about this. It's 2 things I deeply love: nerdy D&D stuff and AI and tech. I was a software engineer before I did this job, coming together. So granted, I haven't been able to put my hands on it directly, but these kind of headlines just make me geek out a bit. I know there's been things like this, but this one reportedly is the best by far. This one, called Dungeon 2, is able to retain and remember settings, characters, and other basic elements of storytelling that usually elude artificial intelligence. That's the big upgrade here. This will keep track of your story and actually be able to progress with you as your character evolves. How is that not super dope and awesome? Tell me. You can't, because it is. Boom. Check it out if you want to in the links down below, though it still might be down. I'm sad I haven't been able to try it yet. I'm actually really sad about that. I want to. But anyway, this has been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Join the Discord server and hit the Fantasy News channel if you want to share any stories with me here. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both right here, if you'd like to see what I'm up to these days. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.